Hello dear viewers, today we have with us Mr. T.R. Parashuraman, Senior Vice President, Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, who is also the Managing Director, who is also the Deputy Managing Director of Toyota Industries Engine Private Limited, India. Let us take his views on the current slowdown in the automobile sector and also how the Toyota way will help. Let us talk to him about the Toyota way and the current industrial slowdown that is faced in the country. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Joseph. My pleasure meeting all of you. So I would like to briefly talk about the Toyota way. We have basically 5 principles of Toyota way. We say the first principle, respect for people. Respect for people is not just a good morning or good afternoon or how are you, but it is how you respect the other person from your heart. Means I respect your contribution, I respect your time, I respect your knowledge, I respect your participation, I respect you as a human being in totality. I think this is the first principle, which means from the respect, many things blossom. People's bonding, people's contribution, people's synergy, people's teamwork. So it's a very powerful principle. In fact, we have read about several interesting examples of our predecessors, the top management, how they have attached the highest importance for respect for people. There are basically 2 pillars. The first pillar I talked about, respect for people. And the second portion of the first pillar is teamwork. So I'm going to touch upon the teamwork. Teamwork is the ability or the kind of teamwork activity. So it's very important to work in teams. By working in teams, we are able to synergize. In fact, we say 1 plus 1 should be greater than 2. So many times if 2 people are put on the same job, we tend to fight and finally the synergy doesn't happen. Many times 1 plus 1 gets into a minus effect. But in Toyota way, 1 plus 1 should be greater than 2, which means the effect of the participation of 2 people, the result is something much bigger than the individual elements. So the teamwork is the second principle. And second pillar is, of course, it is the continuous improvement. So where we have challenging spirit, Kaizen and Genji Gimbutsu. Challenging spirit is we need to set tall targets. It's important to stretch people beyond their capabilities so that we get the best out of people. And this leads to human development. Therefore, challenging spirit is a very important tool. So we should not be satisfied with easy targets. We should set aggressive targets and make activities and strategies and guidance to achieve them. Through the total participation of all employees. Next is the Kaizen. Of course, Kaizen is continual improvement. It is important to identify the current situation and the ideal situation. Then the gap between the current and ideal situation, what we call the problem. And to solve the problem, we need to practice Genji Gimbutsu. Genji Gimbutsu is using all the 5 senses. One has to go to the point of action where the problem is happening and solve the problem through root cause analysis. So, for example, you don't see, but you observe. Observation is different from seeing. So, you observe. So, you understand the phenomena of the problem. Similarly, use all the 5 senses, as I said, touch and feel. For example, some tool is rubbing. That is why the surface finish is bad. So you try to understand the problem by touching the part and understanding. Similarly, smelling. For example, we say the Monday morning sickness smell, the bacterial contamination, the coolant is not changed. By that smell you can identify. And similarly, the tasting is a bit dangerous. In fact, in our organization, we taste the food before it is served to our employees. Of course, it is popularly used in the wine and food industries. Similarly, hearing. See, when you walk through the shop floor, something is abnormal noise that is happening. Means some bearing or something is rubbing. So the tool has worn out or something like that. So using all the 5 senses, and I always say the 6th sense is also equally important, the common sense mostly uncommon. So using all these senses, one has to understand the occurrence of the problem at source. That is what we say Genji Genbutsu.
Okay.
Therefore, the first pillar, as I said, is respect for people and teamwork. And the second pillar is, Kaizen, challenging spirit, and Kaizen and Genji Genbutsu.
So you did your engineering from Madras University, you followed it up with an MS from BITS Pilani, and MPT from IIM Bangalore. When you were a student, what were the personal ethos that you carried, which you still nurture and which you associate with yourself even at this time?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Right from my student days, I always believed in myself. Some friends are telling me, some, parents are telling me, that's all important. But at the end of the day, I always look at my true potential. And if I think that it is possible, I think I put my full efforts to achieve that. I think this is very, very important to understand our own height. In fact, in Japanese also we say Minota ke wo suru. It's a very famous Japanese word in Toyota. It means we should know our true height. And you can call it a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. So I think that I always believed. And second thing is I always believed that everything is possible. There's nothing called impossible, which means I had a very strong belief in, executing things until it is completed. So you can call it as follow-up, or you can call it the perseverance. So which I think helped me in achieving tall targets many times. So I think these are the two qualities. Of course, so I always believe in teamwork. Teamwork is a very, very potential tool. See, individual excellence is important, but more than individual excellence, I think how to work in teams. I think the results are something amazing and miraculous. So I learned this through my journey in Toyota. And now coming to reflect these things, I think my urge for perseverance and conviction that, everything is possible, and my learnings in Toyota through this Toyota way and especially the teamwork, I think has given me a lot of learnings.
So you are also the Senior Vice President of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. What are your views on the industry slowdown that the country is facing now? The Finance Minister had an answer to it, and she said that it, especially in the auto sector, it is because of the changing pattern of car ownership. What are your views on that?
It's a bit difficult question, but I think we are undergoing a lot of challenges at this point of time. If you look at the auto market, India is migrating from Euro 4 to Euro 6. We are jumping Euro 5 in terms of emission norms. Okay. So this is a major changing point. And of course, the sentiments are weak in the market because some doubts in the minds of people, which is the right time to buy. And they're also worried about the price sensitivity, the price changing point after the implementation. And also the current situation in terms of economy. I think banks have a lot of money, but they are not able to lend many times because of some failures like ILFS and other failures. And therefore, the investments have taken a backseat. And the net result is the consumption is not happening. And of course, the environment in terms of China-US relationships, the global environmental outlook also had an impact. So all these things have come at the same time. So I think this is going to be a tough time. But having said that, I could see a very bright future. I could see a very bright future for the Indian market. because the fundamentals are very, very strong, and we have the right policies coming up in place, and the focus on infrastructure is also on the increase, and the economy is also decently growing between 6 to 6.5%. Therefore, the fundamentals seem to be quite strong, and organizations have been focusing on human development, and a lot of bright spots are seen. Therefore, I feel it's a short-term effect, but definitely the future outlook is strong. So the recovery should happen sometime next 3-4 quarters.
Okay. So what are your views on Industry 4.0, and can we see anytime soon a self-driven car in India?
Yeah, I think I would also love to see that. In fact, first of all, answering to 4.0, I think all we mean in terms of manufacturing is all connected devices. So all the devices are connected today, and we are able to track those machines in terms of mission performance, early detection, early resolutions. All the key parameters today it's possible to, monitor those trends and take quick and timely actions. For example, if a spare part is wearing out, this trend is monitored, and the feedback can be sent to the spare part supplier sitting in Japan, and they can plan the spare parts, and they can send it so that your inventory is minimized. Right. One example I'm just telling. Similarly, some motor loads, spindle loads are all monitored, and before the final failure, I think we can take at preventive maintenance activities or some timely replacements before the end of the shelf life. Therefore, all these things are happening, and even safety issues like before a crash happens, with the sensors we are able to alert the accidents from happening. So this IoT is changing the manufacturing in a big way. I think the IoT, the 3D printing, the artificial intelligence, they're all going to integrate into a kind of a new paradigm, and make manufacturing a kind of revolutionary one in the days and years to come.
Yes.
Because unmanned operations
are
on the increase, and robotics and cobots are also on the increase. Therefore, manufacturing is today more of digital manufacturing, means more and more semi-automation and automation happening. So one thing also is the labor cost, which is also increasing in a country like India. Gradually it is increasing. Of course, still it is quite competitive compared to the rest of the world. But when the labor cost substantially increase, definitely automation would be one of the answers. Again, then how to make the productive use of people in the other areas. So we need to develop the other skill sets for the future manufacturing.
Exactly.
So which is very important for Make in India.
Yes, sir. Speaking in those terms, presently a student who is from mechanical engineering side, he will have to have a knowledge in digital also. So in that matter, how can you guide our students for a better future?
I think it's very important that the students should have an overall perspective. So they should be abreast of what is happening in and around. And therefore, I strongly suggest that they should get into the habit of using the library, then visiting the organizations as a part of in-plant training. Then they can get exposed to some seminars and some exhibitions, and they can visit the stalls in these exhibitions, understand this. In fact, I'm very happy that some of your projects which you're trying to make in terms of, satellite launch, small projects which was explained today.
Okay.
I think it's quite interesting. Therefore, it's very important to set up some physical laboratories in a small way to teach the principles behind, so that the students understand the principles at a basic level. Then it's very easy for them to apply. At the same time, they should be also abreast of new technologies like IoT, the artificial intelligence, machine learning, 3D printing, which is very important. These electives also can be offered to them.
Yes.
And this way they can get exposed. And a few plant visits during the tenure at the 6th semester or the 7th semester in those areas of interest would definitely help them a lot.
Okay. The current leadership of the country is looking into the future with electrical vehicles. Electric vehicles are the future for the world, for our country also. How long do you think the petrol and diesel engines will be on road in India?
I think, see, one thing we'll have to understand, yes, the government of India announced the electric mobility by 2030, but there are lots of challenges. First of all, I believe that India is still fossil dependent, which means the coal is one of the natural fuel. Therefore, this challenge is quite big. So we should have natural sources of energy. And of course, other challenge is, battery. The battery technology is still, primitive, and we don't have the manufacturing base. And another challenge is disposal of these batteries, lithium-ion batteries for that matter. This is an environmental concern. Therefore, we need to have the process and mechanism of safe disposal. Then another challenge is the charging stations. So we need to have that kind of high-speed charging infrastructure, which is another key. And another challenge I could see is the supply chain capability to make these electric cars. But all I can say is electric car is the ultimate goal, but the transition should be towards hybrid cars.
Okay.
Which means hybrid is the via media landing point. Therefore, the motor, generator, battery and all is common. Therefore, we should go step by step. And ultimately, we can, reach the electric stage. But in terms of efficiency factor, I feel going to hybrid is a very brilliant step because we are able to achieve the clean energy to a larger extent. And at the same time, we are able to augment the supply chain in phases and ultimately go towards electric.
Yes. So what are your views on manufacturing competitiveness in India with respect to China?
This is also very interesting. If you look at China, of course, today is leading manufacturing country. But going forward, China is also an aging population. So I think that's a big opportunity for India. So normally the transition would be from manufacturing to service. But if you look at India, we are largely a service sector.
Okay.
But the biggest advantage for India is our youth population. It's going to reap a huge demographic dividend because of the young population. One of the youngest populations in the world. That's a very strategically great advantage for India. Therefore, I believe that in future, manufacturing will naturally get shifted to countries like India, which is a big advantage. So we need to grab that opportunity, and to achieve that, we need to improve our labor productivity, which is very important, and logistics productivity. How do we connect cities? How do we promote the cross-urban infrastructure? How do we connect the places of manufacturing to the consumption point? I think we need to improve the logistics competitiveness. We need to improve the infrastructure. For example, we need to get the proper roads, proper, housing very close to the work site so that easy for commutation. So industrial hubs have to evolve. So more and more of plug-and-play models have to come. So all these things will have to come quickly. Of course, now metros are increasing, but the speed has to be accelerated. Even the road delivery. I think the roads have been significantly improving, and we're able to achieve 30 kilometers per day, and now government is setting a tall target of 40 kilometers a day, which is a fantastic thing. So all these things will drive the infrastructure, which is also the key. And most importantly, the supply chain competitiveness. I think we should have the cluster organizations around the place of manufacturing, like what we see in China. So this will really lead to larger scale manufacturing, leading to economies of scale, which will ultimately reduce the cost of manufacturing. So that way, I think a lot of industrial hubs, plug and play models, and industrial clusters are identified. Even if you look at government of Karnataka is taking a very active role in creating a China model in Karnataka, like creating 9 clusters, each specializing in specific product like IC or the toys or the sanitary wares. So each district like Koppal, Mysore, Tumkur, like that, the focus is coming. So this will lead to a lot of decentralization from the city and lead to a lot of city development also. So this is very important to develop cluster points within the state. For example, in Karnataka, the government is trying to implement the China model to develop manufacturing focused at 9 important districts. For example, Kalburgi focusing on solar, Chitradurga on LED, Hassan on sanitary wares, Koppal on mechanized toys, Mysore on ICB, Bellary for textiles, Tumkur for sports, and Bidar for agricultural products, implants. So this kind of focused drive, government also supports in terms of development of these industrial parks and give incentives for people who are setting up the factories there. Therefore, this would promote decentralization. For example, if you look at today Bangalore, so a lot of people will move towards this kind of districts to set up the focused industries. That way it will promote more of urbanization in these other areas. This is a very interesting model. Infrastructure also will naturally come up, and this will lead to a huge leap in manufacturing.
In these changing times when the companies are facing a slowdown, what do you think that they should do so that they come out of it soon?
I think my own experience, every slowdown is a great opportunity to prepare ourselves for the future. So if you ask me, I think it's a great opportunity for, tightening our belt, reduce our fat. So the point I mean is we need to promote cost competitive activities while developing the human resources. So we can, conduct some special skill programs for the employees in the areas where they are weak. And we can promote quality circles so that people have got infinite potential to contribute. So many times in the regular times, we don't get this kind of time. So this is a good opportunity to put them together for a common purpose. They can come out with thought-provoking ideas, which will result in cost kaizens. Then we can promote special skill training in the areas of maintenance, in the areas of manufacturing, in the areas of special skill sets required. This will also help them to increase their capability to contribute when good times come back. So we can also utilize this time to promote Gemba Kaizens. When I say Gemba Kaizens, cost reduction activities. For example, machine is giving a problem. So there's a time to strip open the machine and understand the root cause of the problem, then try to solve the problem by their own efforts. Means not spending much money. Using innovative ideas, we can reduce the cost. And they can also look at collaborative activities. Like you can work with other companies. You can have a common spares. You don't have to stock the spares. So that since the volumes have come down, you don't have to order these parts more frequently. So you can have a common spares. You can have a lot of collaborative activities. And benchmarking. You can learn from the other companies. You can send your teams to the other companies to learn their best practices. Similarly, you can also invite them to your companies so that you can have a mutual exchange of ideas which would help them to improve their own companies finally.
Okay, sir. So as you said, these are challenging times, but it also presents an opportunity. On that point, it was nice speaking to you, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.